For 3 centuries, the Nvarian Empire had expanded without resistance. World after world fell before them, not because Nvarians were cruel by choice, but because conquest was simply how they existed. Their fleets moved like a single organism, vast and coordinated, crushing opposition with mechanical certainty. 50 star systems now belonged to the Empire. 50 suns burned under banners not their own. No civilization had ever stopped them. Admiral Zyrax Kell stood on the command platform of the Imperial Dreadnought Dominion, unending, his massive frame silhouetted against the stars. Beneath the ship's armored hull, the planet Terrius 4 rotated slowly, its oceans reflecting fire from the orbital bombardment already underway. Resistance still flickered below. It would not last. Zyrax folded his segmented arms behind his back, posture calm, composed, inevitable. His species did not celebrate conquest with emotion. Victory was not joy. It was function. Status, he said. Subcommander Vectera stepped forward, her chitinous exoskeleton clicking softly as she bowed. Orbital defense platforms reduced to 18%. Atmospheric breach complete. Ground assimilation units report minimal resistance. Zyrax's mandibles shifted slightly. The closest thing to satisfaction his kind displayed. Estimated time to total compliance? 3 rotations. Possibly 4, Admiral. Acceptable. Zyrax turned his gaze back to the planet. Prepare assimilation protocols. Below them, cities burned. Civilian evacuation ships tried and failed to escape the gravity well. Nvarian interceptors eliminated them with precise, unhurried efficiency. There was no malice in the act, only order. This was how every conquest ended. The Nvarians arrived. Defenders resisted. Defenders died. Survivors were absorbed. No exceptions. Admiral called a sensor officer. Unidentified transmission detected at the system's outer boundary. Zyrax did not turn. Source: not Terrian. Language structure unknown. That caught his attention. Display: the main holoscreen shifted. A single vessel appeared, small, angular, built for speed rather than intimidation. It was already accelerating away from the system. Translate, Zyrax ordered. Symbols resolved into words. Attention hostile forces. This is Scout Vessel Aurora of the United Earth Alliance. We have witnessed your unprovoked attack on the Terrian people. Aggression against peaceful civilizations will not be tolerated. You have been warned, asterisk, asterisk. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Zyrax emitted a low clicking sound. Amusement. They warn us, he said flatly. Scan the vessel, he added. Vectera's claws moved rapidly across her console. Light scout configuration. Minimal armaments. High output engines. For life signs. Destroy it. It has already entered faster than light, she replied. It escaped. Zyrax dismissed the screen with a gesture. Irrelevant. Another minor species clinging to false courage. He turned away from the stars. Continue the invasion. Terrius 4 fell exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes later. As predicted, the Nvarian Empire marked the system as fully assimilated and immediately recalculated expansion routes. 10 additional targets were selected. Humanity's warning was not recorded as a threat. It was logged as background noise. 2 weeks later, far from Nvarian-controlled space, the scout vessel Aurora tore through hyperspace on an emergency trajectory. Lieutenant Frank Mason gripped the navigation console, eyes locked on the countdown timer. Final jump in 30 seconds. Captain Elena Reeves stood behind him, arms crossed. Dark shadows framed her eyes. No one aboard had slept properly since Terrius 4. I keep seeing it, murmured Jeff Calder, communications officer. Cities burning. Evac ships getting cut apart like they didn't matter. They mattered, Reeves said quietly. That's why we're here. Science Officer Dr. Machin turned from her data display. Based on Terrian archives, the species calls itself Nvarian. High base cognition. Centralized command structure. No evidence of diplomacy in their historical record. Frank swallowed. Meaning? They don't negotiate, Chin said. They don't stop. Earth appeared ahead, a blue-green sanctuary wrapped in defense grids. The Aurora exited hyperspace and was immediately intercepted by Earth Border Command. Scout Vessel Aurora, you are 3 weeks early. State your emergency. Reeves didn't hesitate. This is Captain Reeves. Authorization Sierra 97 Delta. We have witnessed the extermination of a planetary civilization. Request immediate Security Council review. There was a long pause. Authorization confirmed. Proceed to Defense Station Alpha. Admiral Jonah Alvarez had seen war, but nothing like this. He watched the footage in silence. Orbital bombardment, civilian transports destroyed, ground forces assimilated without pause. When it ended, the room felt smaller. How many ships? He asked. At least 200, Reeves replied. Their primary dreadnought was larger than our largest stations. Chin stepped forward. At their current expansion rate, human-controlled space will be reached within 6 months. Alvarez straightened. Then this is no longer a future problem. He turned toward the chamber doors. This is a war briefing. Outside, Earth continued spinning peacefully beneath the stars. Unaware, the Security Council chamber was silent. 12 representatives from Earth's unified governments sat motionless, eyes fixed on a frozen image of Terrius 4 burning on the central display. Cities vanished beneath orbital fire. Defense platforms collapsed like paper. Billions of lives erased with methodical precision. No hesitation. No mercy. No pause. This isn't a war, said Council Marina Holt quietly. This is extermination. Admiral Jonah Alvarez stood at the center of the chamber, hands clasped behind his back. His voice, when he spoke, was steady, but hard. The Nvarian Empire has conquered 50 star systems in 300 years. Every species they encountered believed themselves strong enough to resist. He tapped the control panel. 50 red markers appeared on the star map. All of them were wrong. Counselor Ethan Rowe leaned forward. How long before they reach us? Dr. Machin answered before Alvarez could. Based on their expansion vector, 6 months. Possibly less if they accelerate. A murmur rippled through the chamber. 6 months. Humanity had enjoyed relative peace since the Proxima conflict. The fleet had grown slowly, cautiously. Defensive doctrine, deterrence, stability. That era had just ended. We mobilize, Alvarez said. Immediately, Rowe frowned. You're talking about full wartime escalation. I'm talking about survival. The vote followed quickly. Unanimous. Earth changed overnight. Shipyards across the solar system ignited with activity. Construction cycles were cut in half. Experimental systems once considered too risky were greenlit without hesitation. Reserve officers were recalled. Training simulations ran nonstop. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for an enemy that had never been stopped. And everyone knew it might not be enough. Commander Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned warship HSS Vanguard, watching Doc crews detach the final magnetic clamps. The ship was lean, angular, bristling with systems still smelling of fresh alloy. She wasn't the biggest ship humanity had built, but she was one of the smartest. Pre-flight checks complete, reported Lieutenant Rhea Collins, tactical officer. All experimental systems responded within expected parameters. Ward nodded. And the crew? Ready. Nervous, but ready. He understood that feeling. The Vanguard carried weapons humanity had never used in real combat. Adaptive shielding matrices. Variable geometry thrusters. Predictive targeting software built to react faster than human reflexes. Tools designed for an enemy that didn't fight like humans. Orders just came through, said Navigator Tom Reyes. Forward deployment. Proxima corridor. Ward exhaled slowly. So it begins. 3 months later, the first confirmed contact occurred. The Vanguard drifted near the edge of the Arcturus Passage, running dark. Below them, a cluster of small colony worlds glowed faintly. Mining outposts, trade hubs, civilian settlements. No major defenses. Long-range sensors active, Collins said. I'm picking up gravitational distortions. Ward's eyes narrowed. FTL emergence? Yes, sir. Space folded. 20 alien warships tore into existence, their hulls insectoid, armored, alien in ways no human engineer would have designed. Behind them emerged something far worse. A dreadnought, massive, silent, dominant. Ward felt the weight of it even through the display. "That's them," he said quietly. "The Nvarians." The alien fleet moved with unnatural coordination, ships adjusting position as if controlled by a single will. "They're heading for Arcturus 2, Collins reported. Civilian population estimated at 30 million. Ward clenched his jaw. Orders were clear. Observe. Record. Do not engage. Begin full data capture, he said. The attack unfolded exactly as the Aurora's recordings had shown. Orbital platforms eliminated first. Communications silenced. Atmospheric entry. Efficient. Brutal. And then, "Commander," Collins said sharply, "one Varian destroyer has broken formation." Ward leaned forward. "Trajectory? Intercept course. There's a transport ship attempting to flee the system." The display zoomed in. A small civilian vessel burned hard toward open space, engines overstressed, shields flickering. The destroyer closed in. "Orders say we don't engage," Reyes said quietly. Ward didn't answer immediately. On the screen, the transport's engines flared and died. Weapons charged aboard the Nvarian ship. Ward made his decision. Bring weapons online. The bridge froze. "Sir," Collins asked. "We're not watching this happen." Ward said, "Target the destroyer's weapons arrays only. One strike." Reyes hesitated. "That will expose us." "Yes," Ward replied. "It will." The Vanguard surged from concealment, its cannons fired. Precision energy slammed into Nvarian destroyer, detonating weapon mounts in cascading explosions. For the first time in centuries, a Nvarian ship took damage mid-assimilation. The alien vessel reeled. "Direct hits confirmed," Collins shouted. "Open a channel to the transport," Ward ordered. "This is the HSS Vanguard," Reyes transmitted. "Prepare for emergency docking." The Nvarian fleet reacted instantly. Multiple ships broke formation. "They've seen us," Collins said. "And they're angry." "Docking in progress," Reyes reported. "Civilians transferring." Ward watched the sensor data spike. They had crossed the line. Humanity was no longer hidden. On the bridge of the dreadnought Dominion, unending, Admiral Zyrax Kell observed the unfolding engagement in silence. A single human warship. Fast. Precise. Not fleeing. "Analysis," Zyrax commanded. Subcommander Vectera bowed. Weapon signatures unfamiliar. Tactical behavior inconsistent with known species. High adaptability. Zyrax's mandibles tightened. No species had ever intervened mid-assimilation. No species had ever dared. "Change course," Zyrax said. Vectera stiffened. "Admiral?" "Plot a direct path to their origin system." The human ship escaped moments later, vanishing into hyperspace with the rescued civilians aboard. Zyrax watched the fading distortion. "For the first time," he said calmly, "a species has interfered." His eyes reflected cold calculation. "They will be corrected." Back aboard the Vanguard, alarms screamed as systems overheated. They had saved 27 lives. And revealed Earth. Ward stared at the starfield, knowing the truth before command confirmed it. Humanity was no longer a distant observer. It was now a target. And the Nvarian Empire did not forget defiance. The HSS Vanguard tore through hyperspace on emergency vector, engines screaming far beyond standard limits. Inside the hull, emergency crews sealed breaches and rerouted failing systems, while medics guided shaken civilians into temporary quarters. Commander Elias Ward stood alone on the bridge, staring at the Starlines stretching past the viewport. They had crossed the threshold. Humanity had fired the first real shot. "Status," Ward said without turning. "Shields at 42% and stabilizing," reported Chief Engineer Marcus Hale over comms. "Weapons overheating but intact. Engines will need a full overhaul once we dock." Ward nodded slowly. "Casualties?" "None among the crew. Civilians are shaken but alive." That word mattered. Alive. Lieutenant Rhea Collins stepped closer, her expression tight. Command is requesting an immediate full report. Priority Alpha. Ward exhaled. Send them everything. Sensor logs, weapon telemetry, behavioral analysis, especially their response time. Collins hesitated. Sir, do you think we just started a war? Ward didn't answer right away. We didn't start it, he said finally. We just stopped pretending it wouldn't reach us. Earth Command received the Vanguard's data within minutes. The response was immediate. Emergency sessions, accelerated fleet deployment, silent acknowledgement of a truth no one wanted to say aloud. The Nvarians were no longer expanding blindly. They were adapting. Admiral Jonah Alvarez watched the engagement playback for the third time. The room around him was filled with analysts, tacticians, and engineers, but no one spoke. They didn't panic. Alvarez said at last. They adjusted. Dr. Machin nodded. Their response curve shortened dramatically after initial contact. They identified Vanguard as a threat, not a nuisance. And they changed strategy, Alvarez added. They're no longer just conquering. They're hunting. That word landed heavily. Estimate time until they reach Seoul? Asked Counselor Holt. Chun hesitated. If they redirect primary assets, 3 weeks. Silence. Alvarez straightened. Then we don't wait. The first human defensive line formed near Alpha Centauri. 3 warships joined the Vanguard. The HSS Resolute, HSS Dauntless, and HSS Valiant. All new, all untested, all carrying humanity's best hope of delaying the inevitable. The commanders met aboard the Valiant. Captain Sophia Ramirez spoke first. We've reviewed Vanguard engagement. You proved something important, Commander Ward. Ward looked up. What's that? That they bleed. Captain Neil Carter of the Dauntless leaned forward. But they also learn fast. Ward activated the tactical display. Exactly. Which means predictable defense won't work. We don't stand in front of them. We harass, Ramirez finished. Hit and run. Unpredictable vectors. Added Captain Lena Morris of the Resolute. Forced them to split focus. Ward nodded. Human chaos against hive order. A grim smile flickered across Ramirez's face. I like it. The Nvarian fleet arrived 12 hours later. 200 ships. Perfect formation. Implacable. They're entering the Centauri belt. Collins reported from Vanguard's bridge. Ward's voice was calm. All ships execute Phase 1. The Valiant emerged first, firing into the outer edge of the formation. 2 Nvarian cruisers took engine damage, drifting out of alignment. Then Vanguard struck. Then Dauntless. Then Resolute. The human ships moved like predators, darting between asteroids, firing briefly, vanishing again. The Nvarian response lagged. Their formation fractured. It's working, Collins said, disbelief creeping into her voice. Ward watched the tactical display. Don't celebrate yet. On the Dominion, unending, Admiral Zyrax Kell felt something unfamiliar. Disruption. Human ships did not behave like prey. They didn't flee when outnumbered. They didn't commit fully. They struck with intent, then vanished. Recalculate coordination protocols, Zyrax ordered. Subcommander Vectera replied quickly. Our distributed cognition is experiencing latency. Human tactics introduce excessive variance. Zyrax's mandibles tightened. Variance. Chaos. A weakness. Assign independent command threads, Zyrax said. Vectera hesitated. That reduces hive efficiency. Then we adapt, Zyrax replied coldly. Back in the asteroid field, the battle escalated. Human ships took hits. The Resolute lost a weapon array. The Dauntless suffered engine damage. But the Nvarians lost more. 17 ships disabled, 30 damaged. And for the first time in 3 centuries, the Nvarian advance stalled. Enemy movement slowing, Collins reported. They're regrouping. Ward knew what that meant. They're learning, he said. Alarms flared. Commander, hail call from engineering. We're running low on power reserves. Shields can't take another sustained exchange. Ward closed his eyes briefly. Order the Resolute to escort Valiant out. She's too damaged. Ramirez's voice came through comms. We're not leaving you. You're not, Ward replied. You're protecting Earth. A pause. Then understood. The Resolute and Valiant peeled away, engines flaring as they jumped out system. Vanguard and Dauntless remained. 2 ships against an empire. The Nvarian fleet adjusted formation again. More ships broke off. They're isolating us, Collins said. Ward nodded. That's fine. He opened a channel. This is Commander Elias Ward of the Human Defense Fleet. He transmitted. You've never faced us before. You should have stayed ignorant. Admiral Zyrax appeared on the screen, compound eyes unreadable. Human, Zyrax said, you are inefficient. You delay the inevitable. Ward met his gaze. Maybe, but every minute you're here is a minute Earth prepares. Zyrax tilted his head slightly. You misunderstand, he replied. You are not delaying us. The screen cut. The Nvarian ships surged forward. Multiple contacts inbound, Collins warned. This is it. Ward stood. All hands, he said calmly. You know what to do. The Vanguard accelerated, leading the enemy away from Dauntless, deeper into the gravity well of a nearby gas giant. Weapons fire-lit space. Shield screamed. The ship shuddered violently. Hull integrity critical. Hale shouted. Ward watched the gas giant fill the viewport. Now, he said, the Vanguard plunged into the storm. Behind them, the Nvarians hesitated. They did not follow. From the depths of the clouds, Ward gave the final order. Fire everything. Missiles launched upward, guided by algorithms written in desperation and hope. They struck, including one that tore into the Dominion Unending's lower decks. For the first time in recorded history, a Nvarian flagship took critical damage. On Zyrax's bridge, alarm screamed. Uncertainty spread. Inside the storm, the Vanguard barely held together. But above it, the Nvarian fleet slowed. Earth had been given time. And the Empire that had never lost had just learned something new. Humanity did not break easily. The HSS Vanguard crawled out of the gas giant's upper atmosphere like a wounded animal. Its hull was scorched black. Plates warped, shield emitters hanging by emergency braces. Inside the ship, lights flickered as auxiliary power struggled to keep essential systems alive. The bridge smelled of burnt circuitry and overheated metal. But they were alive. Structural integrity at 12%. Chief Engineer Marcus Hale reported, voice hoarse. If we take another hit like that, we don't make it. Commander Elias Ward lowered himself into the command chair, muscles aching, breath slow and controlled. Status on the Nvarian fleet? Lieutenant Rhea Collins checked her tactical display. Her eyes widened slightly. They've stopped. Ward looked up. Stopped. Yes, sir. The main fleet has broken pursuit. They're reorganizing around the damaged command vessel. A quiet ripple passed through the bridge crew. They had done more than delay. They had forced Nvarians to hesitate. For the first time in centuries, the unstoppable machine had paused to reassess. On the bridge of the Dominion, unending, Admiral Zyrax, Kell stood amid controlled chaos. Emergency crews sealed ruptured sections. Power was rerouted. Damaged sensor arrays were replaced with secondary systems. The dreadnought still functioned, still commanded authority. But the illusion of invincibility had cracked. Report, Zyrax demanded. Subcommander Vectera approached, her movements tense. Primary propulsion compromised but operational. Weapon capacity reduced by 27%. Distributed cognition nodes recalibrating after human interference. Zyrax stared at the tactical display, showing human ships withdrawing into distant space. One vessel, he said slowly. One species newly encountered. And yet, he did not finish the sentence. The thought was unacceptable. Analysis, he ordered. Vectera hesitated. Human tactical behavior does not conform to predictive models. They prioritize disruption over annihilation. Their command units act independently, creating chaotic engagement patterns that reduce hive efficiency. Zyrax's mandibles flexed. Our advantage has always been coordination, he said. And they attack that. Yes, Admiral. Silence stretched across the bridge. Then Zyrax spoke again. Change doctrine. This species is no longer considered minor. Vectera looked up sharply. They are to be classified as... Zyrax's compound eyes hardened. Existential. Earth Defense Command erupted into motion the moment the data from Vanguard arrived. Admiral Jonah Alvarez stood before a massive star map showing the Invarian fleet's stalled position. They stopped, Alvarez said. Not retreated. Not advanced. They stopped. Dr. Machin nodded. They're reevaluating. That suggests something critical. What? Asked Counselor Holt. That humanity is no longer predictable prey. Alvarez turned toward the gathered officers. We bought time. Now we use it. Shipyards doubled output. Weapons previously deemed unstable were rushed into final testing. Entire civilian industries were converted to military logistics. Humanity abandoned restraint, not out of bloodlust, but necessity. The knowledge was clear. If Invarians reached Sol, Earth would burn, and Earth had no intention of letting that happen. Back near Alpha Centauri, the HSS Dauntless limped toward the Vanguard's position. Captain Neil Carter's voice crackled over comms. Ward, you stubborn bastard. We thought you were gone. Ward allowed himself a tired smile. You'll have to do better than that to get rid of me. Dauntless docked alongside Vanguard, transferring power and repair drones. We delayed them 6 hours, Carter said. That's 6 hours Earth didn't have yesterday. Ward nodded. Then it was worth it. Carter's expression darkened. You realize this was just the opening move. I know, Ward replied. And so do they. Far beyond human space, the Invarian Empire responded. Assimilation routes were suspended. Expansion paused across 3 sectors. Fleets were recalled. Strategic councils convened. This had never happened before. The empire that consumed worlds without thought was now thinking. And thinking led to one conclusion. Humanity was dangerous. On the Dominion, unending, Zyrax addressed the assembled command cast through the Hive channel. This species disrupts, Zyrax said. They resist without hope of victory. They sacrifice without hesitation. They adapt faster than expected. Images of the Vanguard maneuvers flashed through shared cognition. They are not efficient, Zyrax continued, but they are resilient. A ripple of unease passed through the Hive. Zyrax ended it. Resilience can be broken. Orders flowed instantly. The next phase would not be cautious. It would be overwhelming. 3 days later, deep within Sol's outer perimeter, Earth's early warning network screamed. FTL signatures detected. Came the alert. Multiple vectors. Massive energy profiles. Admiral Alvarez stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship HSS Sovereign, watching red markers bloom across the tactical map. They're not coming straight in, he said quietly. Dr. Chin stared at the data. They're splitting their forces. Feinting. Testing our response time. Alvarez clenched his fists. They learned. Commander Ward received the alert aboard Vanguard. Earth Fleet reporting Varian multi-vector approach. Collins said. Estimated engagement window, 72 hours. Ward closed his eyes briefly. 72 hours. Not enough. Patch me through to Admiral Alvarez, he said. The channel opened moments later. Commander, Alvarez said, you're in no condition to fight. Ward met his gaze. Then it's a good thing we don't need to win. Alvarez understood immediately. You want to delay them again. Yes, Ward said, but not like before. We don't hit the fleet. Alvarez raised an eyebrow. Then what? Ward's voice was calm. We hit what they value. The plan was dangerous, possibly suicidal, and it might be the only thing that worked. Human intelligence had identified a pattern in Varian command structure. Though hive-based, certain nodes, strategic processing vessels, serve as coordination anchors. Destroy those, and the hive slowed, not collapsed, but staggered. Target their minds. Carter said quietly over the joint channel. Ward nodded. Exactly. Hours later, a small human strike group slipped into deep space. 3 ships. Damaged. Outnumbered. Unnoticed. For now. Ahead of them lay a cluster of massive Invarian command vessels, glowing faintly against the void. Collins whispered, "If we're detected—" "We won't be," Ward replied. "And if we are, we make it count. Weapons armed, engines silent. Humanity advanced, not with numbers, not with brute force, but with intent. And for the first time since the Empire's birth, the Invarians were about to learn what it meant to fight an enemy who refused to play by the rules." The human strike group moved through the dark like ghosts. 3 ships, Vanguard, Dauntless, and Warden, slipped past the edges of Invarian sensor space with engines throttled down to near silence. Every system ran on minimal output. Even life support was reduced to emergency cycling. Commander Elias Ward stood rigid on Vanguard's bridge, eyes fixed on the tactical projection hovering before him. Ahead lay the target. Not a fleet, not a dreadnought. Something far more important. "They're calling it a coordination nexus," Lieutenant Rhea Collins said softly. 3 command vessels linked by continuous data exchange. "If we're right, this is where their hive thinking slows." Ward nodded. "Not stops. Slows." Captain Neil Carter's voice came through the encrypted channel. "We're threading a needle here. One wrong signal spike, and they'll swarm us." Ward didn't look away from the display. "Then we don't spike." On the far side of the void, the Invarian nexus drifted in perfect symmetry. 3 massive vessels, each nearly half the size of a dreadnought, hovered in triangular formation. Streams of energy pulsed between them, constant, rhythmic, alive. Within them, the hive thought, processed, optimized. Admiral Zyrax Kell did not reside aboard the Nexus, but its existence was an extension of his will, and it had never been attacked. "Range?" Ward asked. 2 minutes, Collins replied, stealth holding barely. "Weapons?" "Charged. 1 shot each. Anything more, and we light up the system." Ward took a slow breath. This is it. The Dauntless drifted into position first, sliding behind a shattered moon fragment. The Warden took the opposite flank. Vanguard moved straight down the center. Perfect asymmetry. Human chaos. "Mark," Ward said quietly. 3 ships fired. Not volleys. Not barges. Single, devastating strikes. The weapons were not designed to destroy hulls. They were designed to disrupt cognition. Energy slammed into the Nexus vessels simultaneously, detonating along their data conduits. The pulsing light between the 3 ships flickered, then fractured. For 1 terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, all hell just broke loose, Collins whispered. Inside the Invarian hive, something broke. Not physically. Mentally. Commands echoed without resolution. Response loops failed. Thousands of ships across multiple sectors hesitated. Microseconds at first, then longer. Enough. More than enough. On the Dominion, unending. Warning signals cascaded across Zyrax's command interface. "Explain," Zyrax demanded. Vectera's voice trembled. "Coordination latency across multiple fleets. Nexus nodes are unstable." Zyrax's mandibles clenched. "Cause." "Human interference." Silence. Then Zyrax spoke, slow and deliberate. "They struck the mind." Back near the Nexus, alarm screamed aboard Vanguard. "Stealth failure." Collins shouted. "They've detected us. Multiple contacts emerging." Ward didn't hesitate. "All ships, break and scatter. Maximum evasion." The human ships tore away in different directions as Invarian escorts surged forward. Weapons fire lanced through space. The Warden took a hit, shields collapsing in a bloom of light. "We're bleeding atmosphere," Captain Juno Hale reported. "We won't outrun them." Ward's jaw tightened. Dauntless, screen Warden's retreat. Carter's reply was immediate. "Already moving." The Dauntless swung into the path of the pursuing Varian cruisers, firing wildly, unpredictably. It worked. For seconds. Then the Varians adapted. "They're compensating," Collins warned. "Weapon convergence increasing." Ward watched the tactical display, calculating. They had achieved the objective. Now they needed to survive. The Warden jumped to FTL in a flash of distorted space. The Dauntless followed seconds later, trailing debris. Vanguard was last. Weapons overheated. Engines screaming. FTL spool at 80%, Collins reported. An Invarian beam struck Vanguard's flank. The ship shuddered violently. Hull breach on Deck 7. Hale shouted from engineering. Hold it together, Ward said calmly. We jump on my mark. Another hit. Lights flickered. FTL ready. Collins yelled. Jump. Space collapsed. Silence. Then stars. The Vanguard emerged far beyond the engagement zone, drifting, broken but intact. A cheer rose on the bridge, brief, exhausted, restrained. They had lived, and more importantly, they had succeeded. Across Invariant-controlled space, fleets slowed. Assimilation timelines stretched. Commands were reissued, rechecked, delayed. The hive still functioned, but it no longer flowed perfectly. For the first time in 300 years, inefficiency infected the Empire. On the Dominion, unending, Zyrax stared at the reports streaming in. Delays, confusion, lost initiative, all traced back to one species. Humans, Zyrax said quietly. Vectera lowered her head. They adapt faster than projections. They sacrifice assets without hesitation. They target systemic vulnerabilities. Zyrax turned toward the star map. They will be eradicated. But Admiral, Vectera said carefully, their behavior suggests something else. Zyrax paused. What? They are not trying to win battles. They are trying to buy time. The realization settled heavily. Zyrax understood strategy, and now he understood the threat. Earth received confirmation hours later. Admiral Alvarez stared at the incoming data in stunned silence. They did it, he said softly. Fleet response times dropped across every sector. Dr. Chin nodded. We estimate their advance towards Sol has been delayed by at least 2 weeks. Alvarez exhaled. 2 weeks. Earth could build a lot in 2 weeks. Commander Ward stood alone on Vanguard's damaged bridge, staring out into the void. They had wounded the hive, but the cost had been high, and he knew the Invarians would not allow it to happen again. They had crossed another line, and next time, the Empire would come not to conquer, but to punish. The Invarian Empire did not rage. It recalculated. Across thousands of light years, assimilation schedules were rewritten. Fleets were reassigned. Expansion corridors, once optimized for efficiency, were rerouted toward a single objective: humanity. For the first time in its history, the Empire was not spreading outward. It was turning inward, focusing its entire will on one species that had dared to strike its mind. On the bridge of the Dominion, unending, Admiral Zyrax Kell observed the strategic display in silence. The familiar harmony of the hive had returned, but something subtle had changed. Latency remained. Tiny delays. Moments of hesitation where none had existed before. The hive still obeyed, but it no longer flowed. Status, Zyrax said. Subcommander Vectera stepped forward. Coordination nodes stabilized at 87% efficiency. Residual disruption persists. Human interference caused permanent loss of 3 Nexus vessels. Zyrax's mandibles flexed. Losses: 34 ships destroyed during withdrawal realignment. An additional 72 damaged. Unacceptable. These humans, Zyrax said slowly, have altered the equation. Vectera hesitated. Admiral, our predictive models indicate something unusual. Zyrax turned one compound eye toward her. Explain. They are not defending territory in conventional sense. They are trading ships' crews, even command assets for time. Time. Zyrax understood the implication instantly. They are preparing something. Yes, Admiral. Zyrax straightened. Then we deny them that opportunity. The order rippled through the hive. Hunter-killer groups were formed, fast, autonomous, freed from standard coordination protocols. Their purpose was not conquest. It was extermination. Their targets were not planets. They were human warships, human shipyards, human logistics routes. The Empire would not wait to reach Sol. It would bleed humanity first. Commander Elias Ward received the alert aboard the HSS Vanguard, while emergency crews were still patching hull breaches. Multiple Invarian task groups detected. Lieutenant Rhea Collins reported, independent formations. No clear invasion vector. Ward frowned. They're not coming straight for Earth. No, Collins said quietly. They're coming for us. Ward felt the weight settle in his chest. They've changed strategy. Yes, sir. Ward straightened. Patch me through to Earth Command. Admiral Jonah Alvarez's face appeared moments later, lines of exhaustion etched deep. We see it too, Alvarez said before Ward could speak. They're hunting. They learned, Ward replied. And they're afraid. Alvarez's eyes sharpened. Afraid? They wouldn't change doctrine otherwise, Ward said. Empires don't adapt unless something threatens them. Alvarez considered that. What do you recommend, Commander? Ward took a breath. We keep doing what hurts them, but we stop acting alone. Within hours, humanity shifted posture again. Small strike groups were recalled. Fleet assets consolidated. Defensive perimeters tightened around key systems. Shipyards went dark under layered stealth fields. Humanity stopped looking like prey. It began to look like a trap. Near the Tau Cygni system, the Invarian hunter group, Clade Severance, encountered its first human target. A convoy. Unarmed transports carrying raw materials toward Earth. Perfect prey. The Invarians moved in without hesitation. Then space tore open. 4 human warships dropped from hyperspace directly into the hunter group's path. Ambush. Human ships detected. The Invarian lead commander signaled. The hive responded instantly. Weapons charged. And then, nothing happened as expected. Human ships did not engage head-on. They split. They flanked. They fired and vanished. The convoy fled. 2 Invarian ships were crippled before the hunters could adjust. For the first time, the Empire realized something unsettling. Humanity was learning too. Aboard Vanguard, Ward watched the engagement data stream in real time. They're pushing their hunters into traps, Collins said, using civilian convoys as bait. Ward nodded grimly. Risky, but effective. And cruel, Collins added softly. Ward did not disagree. War had arrived. On the Dominion, unending, Zyrax reviewed footage of the ambush. Human ships moved unpredictably, prioritizing survival over kills. They struck where the Empire expected weakness, and turned it into a weapon. These humans no longer fear us, Zyrax said. Vectera bowed her head. Fear no longer governs their decisions. Zyrax stared at the star map. Then we will remind them why fear exists. The next Invarian strike was overwhelming. A human shipyard near Epsilon Eridani was targeted by 3 full hunter groups. Defense platforms fought bravely. They were erased. By the time human reinforcements arrived, the shipyard was gone. Millions dead. Dozens of unfinished warships reduced to debris. Earth received the footage within hours. The mood shifted instantly. Grief hardened into resolve. Commander Ward stood in silence as the images replayed on Vanguard's bridge. They're sending a message, Collins said. Ward nodded. Yes. He opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Commander Elias Ward to all human forces. His voice was calm, controlled, but iron-hard. The Invarian Empire believes it can break us by striking our lifelines. They believe we will retreat. They are wrong. Across human space, fleets repositioned, not to defend, to retaliate. Ward met with senior commanders aboard Earth's flagship 2 days later. Admiral Alvarez addressed the room. The Empire has escalated. Civilian targets are now primary objectives. Captain Ramirez clenched her fists. Then we stop pretending this is about defense. Dr. Chin spoke quietly. Our projections indicate the Invarians still rely on centralized production and repair hubs. They cannot replace losses as quickly as we can. Alvarez looked toward Ward. Ward understood. They bleed like we do, Ward said. The difference is we're willing to bleed longer. Alvarez nodded once. Then we hit back. Orders went out. Human strike groups were authorized to target Invariant infrastructure, supply depots, repair yards, command relays. For the first time in its long existence, the Empire faced something it had never truly encountered. An enemy that did not collapse. An enemy that did not submit. An enemy that learned from pain. On the Dominion, unending, Xyrax felt the tremors ripple through the hive. Supply delays. Repair backlogs. Losses accelerating beyond replacement. The humans were not winning, but they were enduring. And endurance was dangerous. Xyrax closed his eyes briefly. "This ends its soul," he said. Vectera looked up sharply. "Admiral, we crushed their heart," Xyrax continued. "Their world, their symbol, their origin. The cost is irrelevant," Xyrax snapped. The decision was final. The Empire would no longer hunt in shadows. It would march toward Earth. Far away, Commander Ward felt it before sensors confirmed it. A shift, a gathering weight. He looked up as Collins spoke. "Sir, Invariant fleet vectors are aligning." Ward exhaled slowly. "They're done testing us." He straightened. "So are we." Earth knew before the first alarm sounded. Not because sensors were faster, but because silence was wrong. For weeks, Invariant fleets had probed, harassed, tested. Now, across dozens of listening posts and deep space relays, a single pattern emerged. Alignment, convergence, purpose. Admiral Jonah Alvarez stood on the bridge of the HSS Sovereign, watching the tactical display as red vectors locked into place. "They're not skirting the perimeter anymore," he said quietly. "They're coming straight through." Dr. Machin nodded. "No feints, no hunter groups. This is a unified advance." Someone whispered what everyone was thinking. "Their main force." Alvarez straightened. "Signal condition black. All fleets to final defensive posture." Across human space, the message propagated. Humanity braced itself. Commander Elias Ward stood aboard the HSS Vanguard, now docked at Earth's outer defense ring. The ship bore scars, burned hull plates, patched armor, but it still stood. Like its crew, Lieutenant Rhea Collins studied the sensor feed. Estimated enemy strength: over 300 warships, including at least 4 Dreadnought-class vessels. Ward nodded. "They brought everything." "And we have?" Collins hesitated. Ward answered calmly. "Enough." The human defense fleet assembled in layers. Not one massive formation, but many. Each task group positioned to overlap fields of fire, to support and retreat, to absorb loss without collapse. Human doctrine had changed. No single point of failure. No perfect formation to shatter. Only resilience. On the bridge of the Dominion, unending, Admiral Xyrax Kell observed Earth the first time. A blue world. Small. Defiant. It should have inspired nothing. Instead, Xyrax felt something disturbingly close to caution. "Human fleet density exceeds projections," Subcommander Vectera reported. "Their vessels are varied in design. No standardized pattern." Xyrax studied the display. "Chaos again." "Yes, Admiral." Xyrax did not sneer this time. He understood now. Chaos was not weakness. It was freedom. The first shots were fired at extreme range. Invariant energy lances cut through space, striking human forward platforms. Defense arrays flared and failed under the sheer power. Human ships answered with precision strikes, not to destroy, but to disrupt, targeting sensors, shield harmonics, command relays. The battle ignited across millions of kilometers. "Enemy fire intensifying," Collins reported. "They're pushing the center." Ward watched as human ships fell back, not routed, but repositioning. "They're trying to punch through," Ward said. "They think we'll break." Collins glanced at him. "Will we?" Ward's jaw tightened. "No." The Invariant dreadnoughts advanced. Massive, relentless, uncaring of losses around them. Each carried enough firepower to shatter continents. "This is it," Collins whispered. Ward activated the fleet channel. "All units," he said, "hold the line. Not win, not destroy. Hold. Human ships surged forward. Fighters swarmed. Cruisers darted between larger vessels, unloading everything they had before retreating behind fresh shields. Losses mounted. Names vanished from the tactical map, but the line held, minute by minute, ship by ship. On the Dominion, unending, Xyrax felt the resistance intensify. They are not yielding, Vectera said, even under unsustainable loss ratios. Xyrax's mandibles tightened. They should be breaking. They are not. Xyrax leaned forward, then escalate. A new order rippled through the Nvarian fleet. Planetary strike weapons powered up, not aimed at fleets, at Earth. They're charging planet killers. Collins shouted, "Sir, they're going for the surface." Ward felt ice flood his veins. "That's not conquest," he said quietly. "That's punishment." Admiral Alvarez saw it too. "They've crossed the line," he said. Dr. Chin looked at him sharply. "Admiral, once they fire." "They won't," Alvarez said, "because we won't let them." He turned to the comm officer. "Authorize protocol judgment." The room went still. Protocol judgment had never been tested. It had never been approved for use. Until now, deep beneath Earth's surface, systems awakened that had been kept dormant for decades. Weapons not designed for battle, but for deterrence. Weapons humanity had hoped never to use. Ward felt the shift before Collins spoke. "Sir, Earth just activated something." Space rippled. Gravity bent. From hidden positions around Earth, massive structures unfolded, long, angular silhouettes emerging from stealth fields. Planetary-scale weapons. Human-built. And terrifying. "What are those?" Collins whispered. Ward stared. "Our answer," he said. On the Dominion, unending, alarms blared. Unknown energy signatures detected. Vectera reported. Multiple planetary-scale constructs powering up. Xyrax's compound eyes widened slightly. "Analysis." "They are not ships," Vectera said slowly. "They are emplacements. Weapons. Built around Earth. Waiting. For centuries, the Nvarian Empire had believed one truth. No world could truly defend itself. Earth had just disproven that. Human command channels lit up. Target lock achieved. Weapon synchronization complete. Awaiting authorization. Admiral Alvarez closed his eyes briefly. Humanity stood at a precipice. Once crossed, there would be no going back. Ward watched Earth's weapons align. He thought of the shipyards destroyed, the civilians lost, the worlds erased. He keyed his channel to Alvarez. "Sir," Ward said quietly, "if we fire, there's no more pretending this is about survival alone." Alvarez met his gaze on the screen. "I know." He looked back at the tactical display, at the planet killers charging, at Earth, at humanity. "Fire," Alvarez said. Space screamed. The first planetary cannon fired without sound. There was no flash, no explosion. Space itself bent, folded inward like fabric pulled through a ring. Then the beam emerged. It wasn't light. It wasn't energy in any form the Varians recognized. It was absence, a corridor where reality had simply been told to stop existing. The forward Varian dreadnought vanished. Not exploded, not shattered, gone. Every atom, every system, every life aboard erased so completely that sensors registered nothing at all. Not debris, not radiation, not even an echo. On the bridge of the Dominion, unending, silence fell like a physical weight. Admiral Vectera whispered, "The dreadnought, it no longer exists." Xyrax did not speak. He stared at the empty space where his strongest warship had been. Then the second cannon fired, and the third. Humanity did not scatter its fire. It selected. Each beam struck a command vessel, a coordination node, a fleet anchor. Within seconds, 7 Varian capital ships ceased to be. The Varian advance stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Commander Elias Ward watched the tactical display in stunned silence. Red icons blinked out one by one. Direct hit confirmed, Collins said softly. Enemy dreadnought neutralized. Neutralized, not destroyed. Ward swallowed. Multiple confirmations? Yes, sir. No countersignature. No recovery. The human fleet surged, not chaotically, but with purpose. Now they advanced. On Earth, Admiral Alvarez felt the weight of every life ended by his command. He did not flinch. They chose escalation, he said. We answered. Dr. Chin studied the data. The cannons are drawing enormous power, but they're stable. Cooling cycles nominal. How many shots do we have? Alvarez asked. Chin hesitated. Before we risk structural failure? 12. Alvarez nodded once. 12 is enough. The Varian fleet reacted at last. Not with strategy. With fear. Enemy formations broke. Ships scattered, retreating from Earth's firing arcs. Some attempted blind jumps. Others fired wildly, hoping volume might overwhelm inevitability. They were wrong. Human ships surged through the gaps. Close-range combat ignited. This time, it wasn't humans delaying. It was Invarians fleeing. An Invarian cruiser attempted to ram the HSS Vanguard. Ward didn't blink. Point defense. Full spread. Human rail cannons roared. The alien ship shattered into molten fragments before it crossed half the distance. Target eliminated. Collins confirmed. Ward exhaled slowly. They bleed, he said. On the Dominion, unending, Xyrax felt something crack. Not hull, not systems. Doctrine. For 3 centuries, the Invarian Empire had advanced without resistance. Every battle had reinforced one truth. Domination was inevitable. Until now, Admiral Vectera said urgently, enemy planetary weapons are retargeting. Power buildup detected. Xyrax stared at Earth, a small world, protected by monsters of its own making. We underestimated them, he said quietly. That admission alone would have ended careers in the Empire. But Xyrax went further. All units, he ordered. Full retreat. Disengage and withdraw beyond the system. The bridge froze. Vectera turned slowly. Admiral, that would be the first strategic withdrawal in Empire history. Xyrax's mandibles tightened. History can adapt, he said, or it can end. Not all Invarians listened. Some commanders refused retreat. Pride demanded retaliation. They charged Earth's defenses. They died, one by one, cleanly, without spectacle. Humanity did not chase fleeing ships, did not gloat, did not annihilate everything in reach. They held position. They let the survivors run. Silence returned to space, broken only by drifting wreckage and fading energy signatures. Earth still stood. On the HSS Vanguard, the bridge crew sat in stunned exhaustion. It's over, someone whispered. Ward didn't answer immediately. He watched the enemy vectors collapse into retreat trajectories. Then he nodded. For now. Admiral Alvarez lowered his head briefly. We held, he said. Dr. Chin leaned back, trembling. We didn't just hold. We changed the rules. Alvarez looked at Earth on the display. Yes, he said softly. And now the galaxy will notice. Deep in Varian space, emergency transmissions raced ahead of the retreating fleet. Worlds that had never known fear listened as reports arrived. Dreadnoughts erased. Planetary weapons defying physics. A species that refused conquest. And worse, a species that chose restraint after victory. On the bridge of the damaged Dominion, unending, Zyrax stared into the void. They could have followed, Vectera said quietly. They could have ended us. Zyrax nodded. Yes. That restraint, Vectera hesitated. What does it mean? Zyrax answered without looking away. It means they are not conquerors. He turned slowly. It means they are judges. Across human space, celebrations did not erupt. There was no cheering, no triumph, only silence and understanding. Humanity had crossed a threshold. The universe would never forget. Ward stood alone on the observation deck later, watching Earth turn slowly beneath the stars. Collins joined him. Sir, she said, do you think they'll come back? Ward didn't hesitate. Yes. She swallowed. Then why does this feel like a victory? Ward rested his hand against the glass. Because now, he said, they know we exist. Far beyond human space, Varian High Command convened an emergency session. Reports played on repeat. Lost projections recalculated. Expansion doctrines rewritten. For the first time in centuries, a single phrase echoed through the Empire. Humanity is not prey. And somewhere, deep within Earth's planetary core, the cannons powered down. Silent. Waiting. Not as weapons. The retreat of the Invarian fleet did not bring relief. It brought silence. Across Earth and its colonies, that silence fell heavier than any alarm. Humanity had survived its first true galactic war, but survival came at a cost that no one yet understood. On the command deck of Earth Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Jonah Alvarez stood motionless, watching long-range sensors track the last fading Varian signatures. They're gone, an officer confirmed. FTL vectors collapsing. No hostile contacts within range. Alvarez nodded slowly. Stand down from planetary cannon readiness, he ordered. But keep the grid armed. Yes, Admiral. The cannons slept again. But no one believed they would sleep forever. 3 systems away, the Dominion, unending, limped through hyperspace. Damage reports streamed endlessly across Zyrax, Kel's command interface. Hull breaches sealed. Systems rerouted. Casualty numbers tallied. Unacceptable losses. Unthinkable losses. Vectera stood beside him, her posture rigid. High Command has requested a full engagement analysis. Zyrax did not respond immediately. He replayed the moment Earth fired. Not the destruction, the precision. They did not fire blindly, Zyrax said at last. They targeted our minds, not our bodies. Vectera tilted her head. Explain. They struck command vessels, coordination hubs, psychological anchors. His mandibles tightened. They understood how we think. That realization disturbed him more than the weapons. In Invarian core worlds, panic spread quietly. Not riots, not chaos. Something worse. Doubt. For centuries, the Empire had promised inevitability. Expansion was destiny. Resistance was futile. Now, that promise had shattered. Entire worlds asked the same forbidden question. If the Empire can bleed, what else can fall? On Earth, Commander Elias Ward stood before a chamber of global representatives. The room was packed. Faces from every nation, every ideology, every fear. They retreated. One counselor said, "Why not pursue? Why not finish it?" Ward met her gaze calmly. Because annihilation was never the objective. Another voice cut in sharply. You let an empire that slaughtered billions escape. Ward didn't raise his voice. And in doing so, he replied, we showed them that conquest no longer guarantees survival. Dr. Chin stepped forward, activating a projection. Our analysis suggests something critical, she said. The Invarians now know 2 things. The display shifted. 1. They cannot overpower us conventionally. Another shift. 2. We chose not to exterminate them. The room went quiet. That choice, Chin continued, is destabilizing their entire imperial doctrine. Admiral Alvarez spoke next. We didn't win a war today, he said. We changed the equation. He turned toward the delegates. And from this moment forward, every species in the galaxy will be forced to make a decision. He paused. To conquer or to coexist. Far beyond human borders, whispers spread faster than fleets. Merchant convoys altered routes. Independent systems fortified defenses. Ancient civilizations that had hidden from invariant advance emerged cautiously from isolation. And everywhere, the same message circulated. The Empire met humanity. The Empire ran. On a neutral station orbiting a dying star, representatives of 5 minor species gathered in secret. They destroyed dreadnoughts, one murmured. With planetary weapons, another added, weapons that bend reality. A third leaned forward, but they didn't erase the fleet. Silence followed. Then a quiet realization settled among them. They're not conquerors, the eldest said slowly. They're a wall. Back aboard the HSS Vanguard, Ward stared at a private transmission. It was marked classified, eyes only, project designation, judgment protocol. Subheading, activation threshold review. Ward read silently, then exhaled. The file confirmed what he already suspected. Earth had not used its full strength, not even close. On the opposite end of the stars, Xyrax stood before the Invarian High Council. Holographic figures towered above him. You authorize retreat, one voice accused. Yes, Xyrax replied. You allowed prey to survive. No, Xyrax corrected calmly. I prevented extinction. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Xyrax raised his head. The humans could have erased us, he said. They chose restraint. Another counselor hissed. Restraint today. Annihilation tomorrow. Xyrax's compound eyes narrowed. Or restraint always, he said, because annihilation was never their goal. Silence fell. For the first time in Varian history, the Council did not issue an immediate command. On Earth, celebrations never came. No parades, no monuments. Instead, shipyards expanded, defense networks multiplied, and humanity prepared, not for conquest, but for responsibility. Dr. Chin joined Alvarez in the observation deck. They'll come back, she said. Yes, Alvarez agreed, but not the same way. She looked at him. What changed them? Alvarez looked out at the stars. We showed them judgment, he said, without hatred. Across the galaxy, ancient sensors picked up anomalies, reality distortions, weapon signatures never cataloged. Civilizations older than humanity took notice, and for the first time in eons, something new entered galactic history, a power that did not expand, did not demand, did not consume, a power that waited. On the bridge of the Dominion, unending, Vectera approached Xyrax one last time. Admiral, she said quietly, what if humanity is not our enemy? Xyrax stared into hyperspace. Then, he said, there's something far worse. She stiffened. Worse. Yes, Xyrax replied. They're the standard by which empires will now be judged. Light years away, Earth rotated peacefully. Above it, the cannons remained dormant, not hidden, not denied, visible, deliberate, a message written into the stars. Attack us, and extinction is possible. Leave us in peace, and the universe may survive. The galaxy listened, and waited. The galaxy did not change overnight, but it tilted. Trade routes shifted. Expansion fleets slowed. Ancient empires paused calculations that had not been questioned in millennia. The Nvarian retreat sent a signal no treaty ever could. Power had met restraint, and restraint had won. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Jonah Alvarez stood alone in the Hall of Records. Before him floated a living archive of humanity's first interstellar war. Every transmission, every weapon discharge, every life lost. He did not come to relive victory. He came to remember the choice. Dr. Machin joined him quietly. The probes confirm it, she said. Invariant expansion has halted across all fronts. Alvarez nodded. They're afraid to move. Not afraid, Chin corrected gently. Uncertain. That distinction mattered. Fear led to desperation. Uncertainty led to restraint. Across Invariant space, reform spread like a fracture through crystal. The Empire still existed, but it no longer expanded. Worlds once stripped of identity were given autonomy to stabilize internal unrest. Military doctrines were rewritten. Conquest probabilities recalculated. For the first time in centuries, the Empire planned offensively. Zyrax Kell, once the spearhead of expansion, now stood before a smaller council chamber. Fewer voices, fewer certainties. They did not demand tribute. One counselor said bitterly, they did not annex territory. Zyrax replied calmly, because they do not seek empire. Then what do they seek? Zyrax's mandibles tightened. Balance. On Earth, humanity debated itself. Some demanded expansion, arguing that now was the moment to dominate before others caught up. Others argued isolation, hide behind the cannons, and let the universe burn itself out. The final decision was neither. The judgment accords were drafted, a doctrine unlike any the galaxy had known. Humanity would not rule. Humanity would not conquer. Humanity would intervene only when extinction was threatened. No warnings twice. No escalation games. No conquest. Judgment would be swift and final. Commander Elias War read the finalized doctrine aboard the HSS Vanguard, now docked in high orbit above Earth. Collins leaned against the bulkhead beside him. We're officially the galaxy's referee, she said dryly. Ward didn't smile. Referees don't carry extinction-level weapons. So what are we? Ward looked at Earth below. Adults in a dangerous room. The first test came sooner than expected. A warlord coalition in the Outer Rim. Species long protected by Invarian fear. Attempted planetary cleansing against a weaker neighbor. They expected silence. Instead, a human envoy arrived. One ship. No fleet. No threats. The message was short. Cease hostilities. Withdraw immediately. This is your only notice. Asterisk, asterisk. They laughed. They fired. The next transmission was never sent. Their command world lost orbit. Not destroyed. Removed. Their fleets scattered without leadership. The war ended in 12 minutes. No follow-up attacks. No occupation. Just absence. The message spread faster than light. Zyrax watched the report in silence. They did again, Vectera said quietly. They erased the capital world. Yes, Zyrax replied, and stopped there. She hesitated. Why does that frighten me more than total annihilation? Zyrax answered without hesitation. Because it proves control. Humanity did not announce victories, did not boast, did not threaten. They documented. They recorded. They waited. Civilizations began sending envoys, not to beg, to understand, to ask the same question. What do humans want? The answer was always the same. To be left alone. And to make sure no one else is erased. Years passed. The cannons remained silent more often than not. Their presence alone reshaped behavior. Wars became negotiations. Expansion became cooperation. Old empires learned restraint, or faded quietly. And children across the galaxy grew up hearing a new truth. There was a line, and humanity guarded it. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of Earth, Admiral Alvarez, older now, slower, stood before a quiet audience. We were given unimaginable power, he said, not because we deserved it, not because we were special. He paused, but because we chose responsibility when tested. He looked across the chamber. Power didn't make us guardians. Choice did. Late that night, Commander Ward stood alone again at the observation deck. The stars looked calmer now, not safer, just watched. Collins joined him, older too, scarred, still standing. Do you ever wonder, she asked, what would have happened if we chased him? Finished it. Ward nodded slowly. Yes, and we wouldn't be here, he said. We'd just be the next empire waiting to fall. She smiled faintly. So, humanity didn't choose vengeance. No, Ward said. He looked out into the galaxy, vast, ancient, listening. We chose judgment. Far beyond known space, ancient machines stirred. Not hostile, not friendly, observing, calculating, a species capable of ending civilizations. But choosing not to had entered the equation, and the universe adjusted. Earth turned quietly beneath its guardian sky. Above it, the weapon slept, not forgotten, not hidden, a promise written in silence. The strongest species in the galaxy was not the one that destroyed the most worlds, ****. It was the one that knew when not to,